On the last video, I put up the question, should you do the CrossFit.com programming, where I discussed benefits, gave constructive criticism, and put the question of who the program would benefit more. In this video, we will discuss 30 days of the CrossFit Diet. Now, I personally put myself through 30, more towards 35 days of being on the CrossFit Diet. With the goal of maintaining body weight, I discuss things that the diet does well, things that it lacks, who it would benefit the most, and just some main misconceptions around the CrossFit Diet. Before we look at any results and anything to do with the program, we must first define what CrossFit's prescription of their diet really is. So, what is the CrossFit Diet prescription? On CrossFit.com/FAQ/nutrition, CrossFit's short answer is eating meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. Keep intake levels that will support exercise, but not body fat. The long version, however, they go over to cover the optimization of health and fitness by using measurable, observable, and repeatable data, by evaluating performance and potentially changing intake levels until desired results are achieved. The approach to the diet is no different than the approach to CrossFit workouts, which I guess makes sense since the mentality of workouts is to measure current fitness levels, observe changes in the body through strength and skill improvements, repeat workouts to record improvement, rinse and repeat. However, you and myself would have all had that same thought about Fran and full sending our diet like we're on that last set of their famous thruster pull-up workout. However, it's the approach to workouts that they're speaking about. I took it too literally. CrossFit's approach also includes the recommendation of the zone diet, a diet that focuses on putting food into blocks, eating a set amount of blocks to track overall food intake. For example, it recommends that most women should eat about 3 blocks of protein, carbohydrates, and fat per meal. For men, it's 4 blocks of each. Each item of food has a certain value, so depending on what you pick will equate to how much food you can eat in a specific meal. So, for example, my breakfast would be 3 ounces or 85 grams of beef for my protein, which makes up my 3 blocks. 1 apple and 2 cups of mushrooms, which makes up 3 blocks of carbohydrates, and 1.5 teaspoons of almond butter, which is making 3 blocks of fat. Of course, this is based off the average female blocks accounting for. So if I was looking for a male, I would add 1 more to each of these. Once again, this data is recorded, measured, observed, and repeated to see if there's any potential changes required to make the diet as efficient and as effective as possible. They call this a strategy. Finally, CrossFit recommends that you adjust your food intake for your lifestyle, goals, discipline, commitment levels, and you also might choose to experiment with things such as supplementation, post-workout nutrition, fasting, and so on. You might choose to include cheat meals, eat more fat, consume more food, etc. Overall, the diet is specific to each individual, and you can optimize your diet by carefully tracking and inputting your food. So much of the diet has to do with A, the individual requirements and belief of a specific person, B, the activity levels and habits and tendencies of that particular person. Additionally, it also includes C, the overall goal and what the person is looking at achieving. But behind those points, it still strongly follows the staple phrase of eat meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, no sugar, keep intake levels that will support exercise but not body fat. This includes variables such as poultry, dairy, and the no sugar talks mainly about processed sugar such as packaged goods. Finally, CrossFit also recommends for everyone to evaluate their own diets, saying that CrossFit is an exercise and nutrition program. If you do not address nutrition, you're essentially rowing with one oar in the water. You cannot out-exercise a bad diet. Now that you've been caught up with exactly what the CrossFit Diet prescription is, how to perform the CrossFit Diet, the pros, the cons, the benefits, and how it relates directly to CrossFit itself, we're going to run through my experience on the CrossFit Diet, the pros and cons that I had with it, the results that I received, and any little bits and pieces that I want to add in. My system for success throughout the CrossFit Diet was a meticulous tracking of calories through MyFitnessPal. The goal of maintaining body weight through measurements and scales, eating as prescribed, all the lean meats, vegetables, etc., increasing my vegetable and fruit consistency and timing. The increase in consistency of vegetables and fruits comes from a survey performed by the CSIRO, where they compiled the dietary habits of adults across Australia over an 18-month period, with 145,975 participants. They reported that women have a slightly better fruit and vegetable consumption than men, which is a defeat already and probably why women live longer on average. However, only 24% of women and 15% of men ate the guideline average of fruit and vegetables daily. That guideline average is 1.5 servings of fruit, or 225 grams, and 4 servings of vegetables, which is 300 grams. Look, this is really scary information. As an Australian myself, it really puts to heart just why so many people in this country struggle with things like obesity, diabetes, heart disease, cancer, all of the contributing factors from being overweight. Also within this study, it shows a table of food groups most consumed, with each group having a score out of 100. It shows that the top 3 highest foods consumed are considered the least important or most harmful for the individual, having discretionary foods, or what would be considered as junk food, as number 1, males scoring a massive 76.8 out of 100, whereas the average men would actually consume only 32.8 out of 100 of the required vegetable intake, which is essentially like consuming 1/3 of their actual daily intake required. Now that's why I decided to consume 1 to 200 grams of vegetables with each large meal and 1 serving of fruit with each snack. For me, that statistic was damn scary. However, I generally eat broccoli, mushrooms, pumpkin, beetroot, sweet potato as my vegetables, and I enjoy things like bananas, apples, and navel oranges for my fruit. Now, I have a braggable 696-day streak with MyFitnessPal, which by the time this video posts will be at 700. So tracking calories is a breeze. I consume 3,600 calories right now per day. 20% of that is protein, 40% is carbohydrates, and 40% is fat. Even though on paper that seems like a low amount of protein, it turns out to be about 170 grams, which is double my body weight, and science says 2 grams per 1 kilo of body weight is great for muscle mass maintenance. Now, previous to the 35 days, I recorded these measurements around my body. After the 35 days, these were my improvements. If we analyze the data, we can see that my chest and calves have remained the same. However, I've made improvements on my arms and thighs and made cuts on my hips, waist, and belly. So it's literally the best news for anyone looking at cutting at weight, which I'm not surprised at all by the thigh change, 1 centimeter in 35 days. The program I'm currently on is in a leg building phase. With many hours of squats, this was pretty expected. However, with the loss of hips, waist, and belly, it's a super interesting fact, since my calories haven't decreased and my training volume is identical, as well as the scale showing an increase, not a decrease in weight, 400 grams. I mean, it could just be a tight shit on a good day. However, with the scale showing no budge, having an increase in good areas and a decrease in the typical fat storing areas for males, this is great success for 35 days work. I attribute the changes, even though slight, to the simplicity of the diet's prescription. By eating more meats and vegetables, nuts and seeds, fruit, reducing my starches, and eliminating most processed sugars, the changes speak for themselves. However, I've followed the diet to a T, even including a cheat meal, eating more fat, consuming more food, etc. I choose to eat more fat on days I felt like 3,600 calories wasn't enough. A tablespoon or 2 of peanut butter usually helped. I chose to eat out once a week, mostly good food though, sombreros, healthy burgers, etc. But I wanted to make it as sustainable as possible, and even these practices really helped by creating a system. The sustainability of a diet was second nature. Most people create a goal and try to use that goal as motivation. However, it just never works out in the long run. Every coach has the goal to win. However, in every single sport, there's only generally one winner, a team or an individual. Same with the CrossFit Games. Matt Fraser wins every year. However, every single one of these other athletes there have the goal to be the champion. If your goal is to lose 10 kilos, let's focus on the 1%ers. Getting to the gym, sleeping 8 hours a night, tracking calories, eating more vegetables, getting more sunlight. The overall goal will happen by itself. That's where we get demotivated. When we focus only on the big picture, we generally lose track, we fall off the bandwagon, By having a system behind us focusing on the 1%ers and the small achievements and worrying more about the process rather than the actual achievement itself, will be 100% more successful than just aiming for the stars. Now, personally, I loved every second of eating the way that CrossFit prescribes. In my opinion, the pros of the diet itself is the simplicity of the prescription makes it great for the majority. Very easy to follow. The large range of food allows you to stay more consistent, including things like dairy, carbohydrates, and giving the option to eat out really makes it more realistic for the average person. The workout methodology makes it relatable to CrossFit. The tracking system is proven to measure, observe, and repeat results until your desired goal is achieved, and it will work whether your goal is to lose weight, gain weight, become an athlete, or PB your back squat. Some of the limitations that the diet provided mostly strings around the broadness of their advice. For the average person, they just need to be told exactly what to do. And given the opportunity, the CrossFit diet makes it very easy for the weak-minded to include a lot of more cheat meals, diet breaks, and questionable options to their food. People who are completely against tracking macros/calories will be at an immediate disadvantage, as the diet heavily relies on the factors. The more meticulous you are, the more successful you will be. The choices of some starch can limit carbohydrate options, such as pasta, breads, grains, and wheat. They are all essentially removed. I personally still eat oats and pasta on the occasion, as they are a great way to get carbohydrates in, and I also heavily invested on potato chips, as they were a cheap, high source of carbohydrates with very little additives. Now that I've covered the CrossFit diet and my 30-ish days of being on the CrossFit diet, here are my final thoughts. The CrossFit diet will suit the majorities, being adjustable, simple, and fits into the majority of people's goals and aspirations. The CrossFit diet is excellent for people who are doing, well, CrossFit. Outside of that, it can still be a super beneficial diet to the regular gym goer. However, if you're not experienced with the CrossFit methodology and workout style, it can be hard to understand the meticulousness of measuring, observing, and repeating data. This diet isn't perfect, and it won't guarantee goals. However, if you have a plan, focus on creating a system to achieve 1% goals instead of the big picture, you will achieve greatness. This is what my actionable extra for the CrossFit diet episode is. About a couple of months ago, I performed the 1 ton challenge. I weighed in around about 82 kilos. 2 to 3 weeks post that challenge, I bulked up a little bit to 85 kilos, and I've sat at that body weight now for the past 4 to 5 months. However, due to the weight division I'm looking at being in for my weightlifting series, I do need to drop 4 kilos. So there's going to be a part 2 to this video. The part 2 is to show how to effectively use the CrossFit diet to lose weight. As soon as I achieve this goal, I'm going to release everything, the results, a couple of my own practices as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned a lot about the CrossFit diet. If you have any questions, things that you need answered, or things that you want to try with the CrossFit diet and aren't too sure about it, leave a comment down below or message me on Instagram at Tyler J. Hamilton. I hope you guys out there stay a beast and eat some vegetables.